Good day, and welcome to part 2 of my 2017 Doctor Who DVD collection overview. Today we're looking at shelf number 2. So for the first one, the first two on the shelf, they're actually in this box originally, which I took out because it makes them easier to see. But we have Dalek War, Frontier in Space, and Planet of the Daleks. So I want to take a look at the individual releases. So here is Frontier in Space and Planet of the Daleks. Next, Green Death, which is one of my, well, the special edition is one of my more recent DVDs, the only ones that I've bought in the past few years. This is the original version. It had to be re-released because they compressed way too much onto one disc and the bit rate was crap. And so here is the re-release with some additional special features, and I actually just recently watched this again. I love that story. It's also probably one of the saddest scenes in Doctor Who history when Joe Grant leaves and you see the Doctor driving off by himself at the end. And then we have the introduction of one of Doctor Who's longest running and most popular companions, Sarah Jane Smith in The Time Warrior. Next, Invasion of the Dinosaurs. To be honest, this is actually a good story. It's just the effects, which, to be honest, they did the best they could for the time, but yeah. Next we have Death to the Daleks. Not one of the better Pertwee Dalek stories, but okay. Monster of Peladon, which, to be honest, pales in comparison to the earlier Curse of Peladon story, which I always thought was one of Pertwee's strongest stories. Next, out of print, we have Planet of the Spiders, which is John Pertwee's swan song. And next we're into the Tom Baker years. So here we have Robot, his debut story, and his only story, well, produced, later executive produced in the final season, but produced by Barry Letts. Basically, it was shot at the end of Pertwee's final season, which is basically how they did things back in the day. The first episode of the new series would be shot at the end of the previous series. And we have Ark in Space, Special Edition, no longer have the original. And this one is apparently out of print, but it's actually still insanely cheap on Amazon.ca. So if you want this story, I would buy it sooner rather than later before it goes and starts fetching collector's prices. This one actually now goes for about $7. It's the Sontaran Experiment, just a little 2-episode story. And classic, I think this one's also out of print, Genesis of the Daleks. Probably not only one of Tom Baker's most popular stories, but one of the most popular stories in Doctor Who history. Then Revenge of the Cybermen, which also was the very first VHS released back in the day. It's kind of dusty. And then actually this was the last regular release, Terror of the Zygons, although there were still a couple that came after this one, but it was originally planned to be at the end of the range and was almost at the end of the range. I think mainly because they wanted to finish with the bang with something that was popular, and this one obviously was. One of my favorite stories, Planet of Evil. Also, I don't know why, this is out of print. Pyramids of Mars, considered by many to be one of the best Doctor Who stories ever. And I tend to concur. It's definitely my top 5. Android Invasion. A lot of people hate this story. This has actually also always been one of my favorite stories. Weird. Then we have Brain of Morbius. The Seeds of Doom. One of the few stories, well, where you can see Tom Baker's Doctor actually really lose it, and you can see how terrifying he actually could be if he wanted to be. The Mask of Mandragora, or Mandragora. I think it's Mandragora. I've never been quite sure how to pronounce this, but in the show it's pronounced Mandragora, so we'll go with that. The final story of Sarah Jane Smith, we have The Hand of Fear. And another one of my personal favorites, and this, actually for a lot of fans, this is their favorite episode, but there are actually a lot of people that actually hate this story as well. But we have The Deadly Assassin. And next we have, and I should say Deadly Assassin, this was the only full story in the original series where the Doctor does not have a companion. Then the introduction of Leela in The Face of Evil. no longer have the original, and the original is actually the first Doctor Who DVD ever bought, but we have the Robots of Death Special Edition. Towns of Wang Chang, which is one of those that I am trying to get, but the special edition appears to be out of print based on the prices it's currently selling for, and it currently goes for about $70. I don't really want to pay that, so I'm going to wait and see if for some reason it goes cheaper, although knowing my luck, it'll be one of those that ends up going for $500. Horror of Fang Rock. Invisible Enemy. Introduction of K9. Also includes A Girl's Best Friend, K9 and Company, which was the first attempt to launch a standalone Sarah Jane Smith series. Image of the Fendal, another story that a lot of people hate, but I don't know, this is also one of my favorite Doctor Who stories. Sunmakers. Underworld. First episode is great, then they ran out of money. Invasion of Time. This one's notable because in the last 2 episodes we're touring the TARDIS, but not really having the resources at the time to build a TARDIS set. It's all shot in a hospital. It does look kind of weird. Just noticing, we still got plastic stuck on some of those. Okay, so Invasion of Time. Then we have Key to Time, the special edition. Again, no longer have the originals because that was sold back in 2014. Destiny of the Daleks, which was notable because it was the first appearance of the Daleks in about 4 years, about 5 years at this point. City of Death, considered to be one of the best stories ever released, written by Douglas Adams under a pseudonym and is now out of print. Why the 2 most popular, well really 3 most popular Doctor Who or Tom Baker stories are out of print, I don't get it. Creature from the Pit. Nightmare of Eden. Nightmare of Eden and Horns of the Nymon, most people hate. I actually really like both these stories. Horns of the Nymon, and I'm not sure, but I think they're both out of print. Shada, which is basically at the end of Tom Baker's second last series, because of a strike, wasn't completed, so it was reconstructed with narrations. The reconstruction is basically the same as the 1990, it was either 93 or 94 VHS release. Leisure Hive, this was when John Nathan Turner takes over the show, and the whole tone and everything changes drastically. Meglos. Well, and we're going to pause it for a minute. I'm going to take these out of their boxes so we can take a look at the actual releases. Okay, now we have them out of their boxes. So first we have the E-Space Trilogy. So we have Full Circle, State of Decay, and Warrior's Gate. Next we have New Beginnings, which is Keeper of Traken, Logopolis, which is Tom Baker's final story, and Castrovalva, which was Peter Davison's first story, although filmed fourth. Just put those over here for now, just so we can kind of see the rest. And then to finish off the shelf, what was actually Peter Davison's first story shot, we have Forward to Doomsday, Kinda, The Visitation, the original edition, and this I actually got yesterday, so my most recent, well, one of my 2 most recent, we have the Visitation Special Edition. And that is it for shelf number 2. Very shortly, we will go on to shelf number 3.